Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wichita United Church of Christ on this very wintry day. This would be about the time when you all would be showing up, which sitting in South Wichita would be the worst time to show up. My name is Reverend Jacob. It is good to be able to join with you today, even if only for a short while. With persistence, we choose to be the church together. Now, today, instead of forging ahead with the service that I had planned, we are shifting to something completely different. Today would have been Epiphany Sunday, which is one of my favorite holidays. But now, next Sunday will be Epiphany Sunday, because there really are no rules about this. Next week, the bulletins will say January 5th, because I already printed them for once early, and we don't want to waste the paper. Next week, we will bag snack bags for 𝗪𝗶𝗰𝗵𝗁, as we have planned for this morning. But this week, we will read a strange story about something different. Now, as a reminder, you can share your gifts and pledges by mailing the check to the church, or you can make a one-time or recurring gift on the church website by clicking the Give link in the top right corner of the church homepage at �wichitaucc.org. So anytime while we're gathered this morning, as you're already doing, drop a chat in the either if you're on Facebook or YouTube, and I will be able to see them both. There is a delay between when I'm saying something and when you're going to hear it, just a streaming delay. So it may be a second before I actually see the comment that you made, but I'll try to keep track and share things as appropriate. So as we begin, though, I'm going to share on the screen for you a prayer that we can share in gathering, and then the prayer of transformation that we can share together. Wherever you're at, sitting by yourself or sitting with someone in the room next to you, whether it seems odd to maybe speak out loud by yourself in your room, or whether that's something you do on a regular basis, join with me as we share in our gathering. As we consider how the day might be different, join with me in prayer. Wonderful mystery, in our very nature we belong to each other, tangled up in mutuality for millennia, unfolding our story of life on this blue planet. Awaken us to the wisdom of deep time, that radical possibility may live boldly through us. And when the powerful tell us our hope for change is futile, remind us of the wild cosmos from which we were birthed. Transformation, beauty, liberation, ever unfolding new life. This is our prayer, O God. Now, if you would join me for our prayer of transformation. Holy God, all things came into being through you. You enlighten our lives. Yet we are drawn to shadows and veils. We distance ourselves from the conditions of oppression and despair of our neighbors, and we hide from displeasure and disappointment at our limitations and shortfalls. Ignite a hunger and thirst for righteousness, justice, and truth in us. Spark compassion in our hearts. Our reading for today is a reading from Numbers chapter 22. And it's a strange story about a donkey and some other human beings who got caught up in the donkey story. There's actually a larger story surrounding this one, but this is sort of the focal point of the story as far as when the donkey is interacting with people. But God was very angry when he went, and the angel of the Lord stood in the road to oppose him. And Balaam was riding on his donkey, and his two servants were with him. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand, it turned off the road into a field. And Balaam beat it back on the road. And then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path through the vineyards, with walls on both sides, And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it pressed close to the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against it. And so he beat the donkey again. And then the angel of the Lord moved on ahead and stood in a very narrow place, where there was no room to turn, either to the right or to the left. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it lay down under Balaam. And he was angry, and he beat it with his staff. And then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it said to Balaam, "What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times?" And Balaam answered the donkey, "You have made a fool of me. If only I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now." And the donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your own donkey, which you have always ridden to this day? Have I been in the habit of doing this to you?" "No," he said. And then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his sword drawn. And so he bowed low and fell face down. And the angel of the Lord asked him, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? I have come here to oppose you because your path is a reckless one before me. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If it had not turned away, I would certainly have killed you by now, but I have spared it." But I would have spared it, being the donkey. And Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned. I did not realize you were standing in the road to oppose me. Now if you are displeased, I will go back." The angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with the men, but speak only what I tell you." And so Balaam went with Balak's officials. Hear what the Spirit is whispering among the people. Now, today seemed like a good opportunity to read a story that you often don't hear, that you maybe have never heard before. It may be the first time that you have ever heard this story at all. There are some pretty strange stories in the Bible. Talking donkeys is actually just the beginning. There are many more that deserve their own day. And for a backstory, Balaam is a prophet or an oracle, a divine seer of sorts. He works for money, it seems, to speak his stories, to see things for people. And the story of Balaam in Numbers is likely an older poetic story that has been used by the writers of Numbers, and they intermixed commentary with the original poetry. And so Balaam is an oracle who was commissioned by Balak, king of Moab, to curse the people of Israel because the king was afraid that the people would take all the jobs in Moab. That's my 21st century, thought about what his complaint was. He was complaining that immigrants were showing up, and there were too many of them. Israel and Moab have had a few scuffles over the years, but Numbers was written during the period of time when Israel was in exile in Babylon. So the story of conflict with Moab is being repurposed or remembered during their period of exile for different meaning, for different purpose. All right, so Balaam is asked by Balak to curse the people of Israel. But Balaam hears from God that he should not curse. But instead, God says that the people are already blessed. Already is the operative word here. So Balaam tells Balak that he can't do it because he can't say something other than what God tells him to say. But when Balak sends new messengers, after being refused the first time, presumably offering more money, Balaam says, "A house full of gold and silver," which is what Balak offered the first time, all of the gold and silver in his palace. Balaam says, "A house full of gold and silver could not convince me," which at least tells us that he's thinking of a price. But he goes back to God and asks again, just to make sure there was no wiggle room, because maybe 2 houses of gold and silver might be enough. God says that if they insist you go to Balak, go with them, but only do what I tell you to do. Only say what I tell you to say. And then God is angry with Balaam for going. I don't know if you've ever been in a passive-aggressive relationship with another person, and they tell you it's fine if you go out with your friends, but what they really mean is that if you do, they will be upset with you. Now, sometimes that is an effort to control, and other times it's a reflection that maybe you aren't that trustworthy. God already gave the answer, and Balaam already told them no the first time. Why is he returning to God to ask again? The second time around, God seems to be saying, listen, this is your chance to be honest with both of us. You wanted the money all along, and you wanted to go. You have my answer already. If you insist on going, perhaps an angel with a sword seen by your talking donkey will remind you what I told you. Do as I tell you to say. Balaam agreed that the people were already blessed and agreed to do what God said to do. So what exactly was he planning to do for Balak? I guess maybe soft pedal what God said to do the first time, explain that the people are really all right. They're nice people. Don't worry about them. And maybe he can still collect the money. What's the harm anyway? But he doesn't. He sticks to the story. He says that they are blessed, and Balak is furious. But we might forget that God didn't say go and bless the people. God said the people were already blessed because God already blessed them. Balaam wasn't necessary for that. But since Balaam insisted on going anyway, at least after a talking donkey and divine adversary appearing with a sword drawn, he was finally convinced to pay attention. And instead of cursing, he speaks this blessing that God has already given. And Balak is furious. And the story ends with Balaam's eyes wide open as he went on his way, shocked at maybe even what he did. And it all turned on a donkey. Balaam thinks he is powerful, that he is this seer. But he can't even move his donkey with a stick. He fancies himself a seer, but he can't even see as well as his own donkey. He says his words are the best, but from God, and from God, but God just as well speaks out of an ass. Balaam claims to be able to know God, but can't see God's messenger right in front of him. Now, as a reflection of this story, it's easy to say that you are for someone, that they are a blessing, that you care about them when they are around. But what do you say when they aren't around? What do we say, for example, when we learn of a chat room on Telegram exists with 70,000 men talking and sharing about how they plan to abuse and harm the women in their lives? This is a real story. Something akin to maybe what Balak was planning to do with the people. And it's certainly not the only group like this that exists, and many others never join the group. People in this 70,000 and way beyond live in our neighborhoods. They're part of our families. What do we say when those around us speak about women and other people with malicious intent? What do we do when jokes are at the expense of women and girls? Sometimes I think that we are more like Balaam than we want to admit most of the time. When the opportunity comes for us to step in and say what is right, to push back when people are saying things that are mean and harmful, do we avoid it to not cause a stir? Do we realize that perhaps the boss who makes the joke holds our next paycheck and we fear economic reprisal? Who will tell the young men and the old men in this chat room? Who will tell the young men and the old men in our neighborhoods and families and schools when they are talking about people in these derogatory ways? And who will tell the other women and non-binary people in your life that those comments and the behavior is wrong and they need to stop? Because the 70,000 men, some quite young actually in this chat group, have people in their lives who need to be clear that the people that they are talking about in these chat rooms with potential plans to harm are God's beloved before we showed up, and that they will not allow them to harm them. They need to know that the people in their lives will step in and do something. This is a difficult question, actually. Who in your life might need you to step in and prevent them from harming someone, or at least to help them change the way they talk about those whom God has already called beloved, has already declared blessed, but yet their words about them are anything but? Be careful which type of conversation and language you allow to flourish around you, because it can turn into something that's not just conversation. Now, if you need help maybe with someone in your life who needs someone to step in and talk with them, let's make a plan and work something out that works for you and that person. Perhaps we have seen the messenger in front of us with a drawn sword for the first time, hypothetically here, and this is our chance to finally realize what God means for us to be a blessing, to speak blessing, and to do blessing in our world. And now, I actually think that perhaps avoiding was never an option for Balaam. That maybe his motivation wasn't so much for the money, but maybe it was so important for him to speak these words because he knew the risk that the people were under, that Balak was a threat to them, and he needed to step in and say something. Sooner or later, he knew that he would have to face Balak and speak the truth to him, whether it was easy or not. We have a choice today. In our closest relationships and in public, to hold each other accountable for the way we speak curses and blessings on other people. And we can stand together and help support one another to make sure that everyone knows that they are a blessing already, that it's not something that we made, it's something that God did, and that we are just here as messengers of that blessing and help protect them from those who are not acting like it. Thanks be to God. I want to actually try something as we come out of this sermon. It's a way of maybe continuing to interact with each other. Let's share something together in the chat, whether on Facebook or YouTube. Share what your plans are for today. Are you going to read a book? Are you going to put on spikes and go for a walk? Are you going to cook soup? Are you going to play a game maybe? What are you planning to do to take advantage of a day less busy? Or maybe you still have to work today. And you might comment, how will this day make your job different? I'm going to give us just a few seconds. And we have someone who's going to create art today. Another person is going to declutter today. Someone in my household is actually going to work today. Maybe. We have multiple birthdays today. Actually, today is also Crystal's birthday. We also have mentioned here John Barton, Emily, Kathy, Crystal, and Eli. It's coming up. All of those are either today or coming up very shortly. All right, we have some other ones coming in. Someone's going to read or to work on a jigsaw puzzle. That's an excellent idea, actually. Rest as I have a bad cough. Oh, hang in there, James. Play in the snow and enjoy some family time. That's fantastic. I would like to know, has anybody been out in the snow yet this morning? I have not. Is it good for packing snow, or is it still pretty flaky. If you have a chance real quick, run outside and do a test for me. Making sourdough bread and doing laundry. Make a pot of ham and beans with cornbread and watch football. Put together a puzzle. Watch the Chiefs beat Denver. Seems optimistic. Cleaning the house. Staying home and staying warm. Watching TV. Planning to read a book and be grateful for my warm house. My warm home. And clean. I think I'm going to play fetch with Kenai out in the snow and see what that's like. He's not dealt with snow very often. It's very icy under the snow. That is true, David. Don't go driving and go too far, but I'd be curious what a handful is like. Emily's birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Emily. Oh, Carol went out to fill the bird feeders this morning. Joe reports back, snow is good for packing. Joe, did you go ahead and shovel your driveway already? You already know? I have not shoveled the driveway yet, for sure. All right, as we continue to share maybe what we're going to be doing today, I'll come back to those in a minute. But I do want to shift to the time of prayer together. As you know, typically we share out loud our prayers, but today we're going to do something a little bit different, just because don't want to encourage us too much to share a lot of personal information in the chat about people and about ourselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to do a little activity, but for a brief second, I'm going to mute myself so I can blow my nose so that you don't have to see all of that. So look at this picture of the church sanctuary and I will be right back. All right. There are a couple more things that I have come in. Make a pot of soup and write thank you cards for gifts. Some chili and put together a cat scratcher. That's a good idea. It's crunchy snow, someone says. I'm going to make some, all right. I'm going to make some yellow snow with my doggy dog. Good job, Anthony. Appreciate you. Do some email, Dee says. Read a new book for our Tuesday morning Zoom coffee group. Hey, nice plug there, Sally. Very icy here. And oh, hey, Sally is in Lenexa, by the way. That's right. It's much worse there. Okay, for our prayers today, though, to get back to that, since we are communicating in a public chat, I invite you to spend a few moments and write some things down. I'm going to have a couple prompts. So if you have a piece of paper in front of you, I encourage you to write it down. But if not, you can just speak it out loud, or you can type it in a note on your computer. If you would like to share someone's first name or a situation in the world that you are thinking about, I encourage you to do that, but please refrain from sharing any personal details. So you can either speak aloud, write, or type very briefly the name of a person or persons who you wish to hold in prayer. And now the second is write down or speak a place or a situation or a community concern that you want to hold in prayer. Now the third one, write down or speak something in your own life that's about you, that you're dealing with, that you need others to hold in prayer with you. So the prayers are a person or persons who you wish to hold in prayer, a place or a situation or a community concern that you want to hold in prayer, and something about you, something in your life that you need others to hold in prayer with you. And I want you to take these prayers, if you wrote them down, or if you just have them in your mind and you remember them. I'll repeat, please. This may be a delay, but I'll repeat them again just in case. The first prayer is the name of a person or persons who you wish to hold in prayer. And on any of these, if you'd like to put just someone's first name, and if you'd like to type the situation, or if you feel free to do that. But I would like you also to write it down, because I'm going to have something that we can do with them ourselves. First one was a person or persons who you wish to hold in prayer. The second one was a situation or a community concern or a place that you want to hold in prayer. And then something in your life about you that you need others to hold in prayer with you. And so I want you to take these 3 prayers, and when you have the opportunity, not today, but in the next week or so, when you're out and about with people, maybe visiting people, maybe a complete stranger that you feel comfortable talking to, take these 3 prayers, and keeping personal information personal, share them with someone else. Ask them to pray for someone, even if just the first name. Ask them if they have something that you could pray for. Now, on this day of separation from one another, we can make a plan to connect with people when we have the opportunity. I have a couple that are listed, some family and people's names that you can see in the chat. We continue to hold our Gail in prayers. He is coming to the end of his life. And for those who are caring for him. I also hold in prayer those who are outside today, who don't have a warm place to sit in front of a fire, who don't have maybe electricity right now like we all apparently do. For those who are without a house outside today and slept through this last night outside. As we join in prayer, I ask you to invite you to join me. May we welcome the day as it quiets our movements and forces us to be more still. And may the presence of God be found among us. Birther of light and word, nurser of darkness and truth, come to us, so we can hear well enough to see your songs all around us. And through grace and truth you teach us, so we come to know how graciousness is the gift we can offer to others. And in promise and hope you call us, trusting that we will accept the joy delivered to us and count on the fullness of your dreams for us and for one another and for all creation. And for all of these people and for all of these situations and for ourselves, we pray, God and community holy and one, as we speak the words Jesus teaches us to say together, as we share in the Lord's Prayer together using the words that are most familiar to us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Now, as we plan to depart, I'll tell you, remembering what it was like to do services in front of a camera, I feel like I'm out of sorts again a little bit. I'm out of my groove, but we do not need to start this groove again. But as we plan to depart, I want to share a benediction for you. That's not the one that we normally share, because you may or may not have it memorized, even though I think most of you do, even though I don't. I never can for some reason. But this is a different benediction as we go this day. And afterwards, I'm going to leave the live stream up with the image on if anyone wants to share last comments with one another. But feel free to drop off the stream after the benediction whenever you would like. We do have a couple new things coming in, soup and reading a book. Receive this benediction. As you go, remember that you are called to speak blessing, charged to keep watch for the vulnerable and the marginalized, embodying compassion for those humbled and in despair. And may a new life of love be born as we share the warmth of God's love and peace in the world. Go in peace. Enjoy the snow. Stay warm. Be blessed.